Today on Philadelphia Eagles Now, I put together the perfect Philadelphia Eagles offseason plan so that they can perfect the 2023 offseason and win Super Bowl 58 so that we can forget about this heartbreak in Super Bowl 57. But first, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Closing in on 42,000 subscribers, and all throughout this offseason, we have you covered with all of the latest happenings around the birds. So lock us in, subscribe today, and let's perfect this offseason right now. All right, here we go. Welcome in. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr., and coming your way on today's show, the perfect Eagles offseason plan so that they can bring back that second Lombardi trophy. And instead of watching the Chiefs celebrate with that parade in downtown Kansas City, we can see another parade down Broad Street ending on those art museum steps. We start with this, a couple of key offseason dates to think about because Howie Roseman is already looking ahead at the start of the NFL Combine, which begins on February 28th. Free agency does begin on March 15th, and the 2023 NFL Draft, in which the Eagles have 2 first-round picks, begins on April 27th with the first round. And this is an Eagles roster that could oversee a lot of turnover throughout this offseason. There not only are a lot of free agents, there are a lot of marquee free agents on this Eagles roster, so big decisions await for Howie Roseman and this front office. Fletcher Cox, Robert Quinn, Brandon Graham, Javon Hargrave, Jason Kelce, James Bradberry, Isaac Seumalo, Andre Dillard, Kyzir White, TJ Edwards. All free agents, and a lot of those players, really good players on this Eagles roster who had massively important roles for a team that set a franchise record for the most wins in a single season and made it to the Super Bowl. We continue on. Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, Boston Scott, Zach Pascal, Miles Sanders, and then to round out this list, Rick Lovato, the long snapper, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Gardner Minshew, and Marcus Epps. Those are the unrestricted free agents who are going to test the market, could potentially leave this franchise or return in NFL free agency. And when you scour that list and when you canvass that list, you count them up. There are 11 combined starters on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the football who were set to be 2023 NFL free agents. And as of right now, the Eagles come in 15th in the NFL among all 32 teams in available cap space. That according to Over the Cap. The amount of cap space that they have as of right now without any contract restructures, $8 million. And of course, I'm very confident that Howie Roseman can make the money work because this guy is a financial logistical genius, and the Eagles can open upwards of about $25 million by restructuring Darius Slay, Lane Johnson, and Jake Elliott. And of course, the cap space number is if Jason Kelce does return for another season in 2023 as he continues to kind of make a decision as to whether or not he wants to retire or not. The indication that I got after that Super Bowl press conference, maybe he's going to run it back for another season, and hopefully he can end his career with a second Lombardi trophy. As for the Eagles' 2023 NFL draft picks, they were among the final 2 teams standing. They went down to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, yet still a top 10 pick checking in at 10th overall, another first-round pick at 30th overall. They have a second-round pick, 62, and then a third-round pick at 94, followed by 2 seventh-round picks, 221 and 250 overall. So this is an organization that could lose some really important players on this roster, but they could open up and refill the chamber once again with some really good young players as well in the draft. So, with the Eagles finishing second in the NFL, they fall in the Super Bowl to the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 57 in what was a gut-wrenching, heartbreaking loss that we're never going to get over. How would you grade the season that the Eagles just had? A, B, C, D, or F? A is lofty because they didn't get that final goal of winning the Super Bowl. I'm going to go B+ for the Philadelphia Eagles. Without further ado, let's get it underway with our perfect offseason plan. Point number one and key number one for the Eagles this offseason, lock up your future franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts and get that contract extension done. Obviously, he's going to get paid a lot of money, and his performance in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs really did increase his market value. According to ESPN's Adam Schefter, he said this on Wednesday, quote, "My guess is Hurts is worth north of $45 million per year. $45 million is a starting point for him." Now, that sounds like a lot of money, but keep in mind that the NFL salary cap is going to continue to increase over the next couple of years, and it would put him in an elite category of the highest paid quarterbacks per year in the National Football League. Not quite Aaron Rodgers money at more than $50 million, not the stiff Russell Wilson who's making $49 million, but in that category of Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, and Patrick Mahomes. And my thoughts with this Jalen Hurts contract extension, you think about him, how he carries himself, how he values the team, and who he is as a person. Is Jalen Hurts willing to take less money to build a better team around him, knowing that maybe if he does take less money, then the Philadelphia Eagles can be a consistent winner for many years to come, as compared to a team in this division like the Dallas Cowboys, where Dak Prescott got paid all of this money, and the roster around him is actually pretty weak, where they don't have a good number 2 wide receiver outside of CeeDee Lamb. Their defensive backfield is awful, and because of that, the Cowboys have really struggled to make deep playoff pushes. More thoughts on a potential Hurts contract extension. He is entering the final year of his rookie deal. So you couple that with the fact that the Eagles and Howie Roseman, given how fiscally smart he is when it comes to the books, could backload that deal to give this team some flexibility so that they can still have a loaded roster that is deep over the next couple of years if the large average annual value doesn't come into play for a couple of seasons. But with what he did against the Kansas City Chiefs, going blow for blow with Patrick Mahomes and proving that he can win from the pocket but also continue to be really dynamic with his legs, he has earned a large contract extension, and the Eagles right now are in a good position where, in my opinion, they have that franchise quarterback on this roster. The worst place to be where you're in an area of despair is if you're continuously looking for that quarterback. But what he did in the Super Bowl really was magical. 27-38, 304 yards, 15 carries for 70 yards, most amount of rushing yards for a quarterback in Super Bowl history, and he accounted for 4 total touchdowns. So you took a look, and we took a look together at the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL per year. How much would you pay Jalen Hurts per year when you also think about Adam Schefter saying he's probably going to get about at least $45 million per year? Give us some dollar figures down below in the comment section. Perfect offseason point number 2. Have to figure out cornerback opposite of Darius Slay. This is an Eagles defense that did not have a good showing against an elite head coach and play caller in Andy Reid and an elite quarterback in Patrick Mahomes. Darius Slay is under contract. He's an all-pro caliber cornerback, and James Bradberry was an all-pro this past year, but he even said after the season wrapped up from his locker room at the NovaCare complex, he wants to go somewhere where, yes, I can win, but also I'm not going to play for cheap, and I do want a long-term contract. And he's arguably the top available cornerback on the free agency market because he's coming off a really good season in which he was ousted by the New York Giants. He goes to the Eagles, and I thought he played pretty well. Other good cornerbacks who were set to hit the market as well: Jamel Dean of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Patrick Peterson of the Minnesota Vikings, Cameron Sutton of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Byron Murphy of the Arizona Cardinals. Now, not only is James Bradberry going to get the bag, some of these other players on your screen can also get paid a handsome salary. So I think it could be a smart route for the Eagles to go maybe with cornerback with that number 10 overall pick. And if you don't go cornerback at number 10, you can still get a really good cornerback at number 30 later in the first round. According to Pro Football Focus, these are the top draft-eligible cornerbacks Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois is actually getting a lot of Darius Slay comps. Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon is a really good athlete with some awesome speed. Saw Cam Smith from Super Bowl Radio Row. I love his swagger. Joey Porter Jr., whose dad played with the Pittsburgh Steelers, has great length. And then Eli Ricks out of Alabama, rounding out those top draft-eligible cornerbacks, which goes to show you can get a good one at number 10, a really good player who you can pay a fraction of the price to as compared to Bradberry, or maybe you run it back at number 30. And Bradberry, very solid season in Philadelphia. 3 interceptions in the regular season, 17 pass breakups, a Pro Football Focus coverage grade of 80.2, and an overall grade, according to PFF, of 74.2. This is a deep cornerback draft. So once again, you can target that position at number 10. You might be able to target it at number 30. Do you let Bradberry go and get a cheaper rookie who, with a good pass rush, can play well opposite of Darius Slay, something that Howie Roseman is going to ponder this offseason? What is the Eagles' biggest need this offseason? Is it cornerback? Is it edge rusher, defensive tackle, another position, being able to knock out defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator? Sound off and let us know. Fly Eagles Fly down in the comments section. New sponsor alert, Philadelphia Eagles Now is presented by Cultivate. We're really excited to partner up with them here at Chat Sports. Cultivate is a free browser extension that brings transparency to your Amazon shopping experience. Cultivate shows you the brand, seller, or product origin and identifies local alternatives that support local community efforts while saving you, the Fly Eagles Fly family, money. With over 50% of Amazon U.S. sellers based in China, Cultivate offers a way to avoid trickery from these sellers and keep money in the U.S. economy. Cultivate offers alternatives that are on average 30% less expensive than Amazon without any additional costs, such as Amazon Prime. It can even identify local alternatives that you can pick up the same day. Plus, Cultivate users earn free donations as rewards for using the extension, and the more you use it, the more you earn in donations by increasing your level. In fact, Cultivate donates, get this, 51% of the revenue they make on your purchase. So what are you waiting for? Go to wecultivate.us/chatsports and download Cultivate for free. Let Cultivate bring transparency, savings, and community support to your Amazon shopping journey. Support the show and download it with our link. It's available in the comment section as well as in the description of this video. One more time, it's wecultivate.us/chatsports. Start saving today. We continue to keep it moving for our perfect offseason for Philadelphia. Prioritizing Isaac Seumalo and Javon Hargrave coming back, I think, is a really massive key for this front office and this organization. This year, Philadelphia, I thought, had the best offensive line. Unfortunately for the Birds, though, they were outplayed by the Chiefs' offensive line in the Super Bowl, which didn't give up a sack to this vaunted Eagles pass rush. But I think moving forward, depending on whether or not Jason Kelce returns or not, bringing back Isaac Seumalo to keep this front 5 intact is going to be important. They were so good running the football. They were able to give Jalen Hurts that great pass protection. Jordan Mailata is really continuing to come into his own. Landon Dickerson will be entering year 3. If Jason Kelce does retire, you have Cam Jurgens waiting in the wings, who Jason Kelce told Howie Roseman to draft out of Nebraska. If Kelce does come back, he's still the best center in the league. Isaac Seumalo will have suitors on the free agency market. He could make between 8, 10, maybe even more in terms of millions of dollars per year, depending on what the market dictates, and Lane Johnson making $18 million per year in that neighborhood continues to be the best right tackle in the game. I did ask Jay Glazer, by the way, who's really close with Lane Johnson, if the Lane train is thinking about retiring. He said Lane is not retiring. He's in this category among the best right tackles and overall tackles in the game. I believe he's going to be there for a little while. So bringing back Seumalo, I'd like to see the Eagles do that to continue to have that continuity along that offensive line. And then on the defensive line, you know who's going to have an opportunity to get paid? It's Javon Hargrave. Why? It's coming off a career year, and a lot of teams are looking for interior defensive line help, including a team like the San Francisco 49ers, who got bullied by the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. Hargrave's going to have suitors. He's a potential franchise tag option for Philadelphia. Career high 11 sacks, 57 pressures coming from that defensive tackle spot, 40 hurries, and 10 tackles for loss. And the Eagles, Howie Roseman in particular, they love building along the trenches. And that's why I think it's important to have that continuity on the offensive line, but have that continuity and that dominant pass rush on the defensive line as well. Now, my clip did go viral with CJ Gardner-Johnson from the Super Bowl last week. I asked him, do you want to return to Philadelphia? He said, I'd love to. I love it here. Who wouldn't want to return and play for the Philadelphia Eagles? It's a great place to be. And CJ Gardner-Johnson was a great, and I mean great, trade acquisition by Howie Roseman in the preseason. Mike Garafolo with this report a couple of days ago saying the one guy I do expect Howie Roseman to make a big push for, is Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. When he plays on that defense has swag, and they talked about long-term goals when they acquired him, and the Eagles didn't have to give up much to bring him in via the trade market, and because of that, you get good bang for your buck if you're able to bring him back because you didn't really have to mortgage any draft or player capital to bring in CJ Gardner-Johnson. Tied for the NFL league lead in interceptions, even though he missed several games because of that excruciating injury. 61 solo tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 8 pass breakups. The fact that he made that seamless transition from slot corner to safety and played really well in that role, I think was really, really impressive, and I love that positional versatility that he could play safety and cornerback. Reminds me a lot of a guy like Malcolm Jenkins or the Honey Badger. Was great with his anticipatory skills and picking passes off, especially in some of those critical moments. He has that dog in him, which I think bodes well for this Eagles culture. He's still young, so the investment going to go a long way because he's 25 years old, and prior to that awful injury in his core, he hadn't been injured throughout his NFL career. So to bring back a guy like that, I think is really important. But like Javon Hargrave, he's going to have a lot of interested teams in free agency. But man, you watch back that Super Bowl, which it's very difficult to rewatch that game. He was flying all across the field. If you want CD Deuce to return, give me some 23s, that jersey number down below in the comment section. Couple more things to get to here. Is Miles Sanders going to be too pricey? If he is too pricey and he demands between $10 and $13 million, let him walk. If he's willing to come back for about $8 million per year, I'd be interested in bringing Miles Sanders back. I did think it was pretty interesting that Kenny Gainwell was not only the Eagles' leading rusher in the divisional round, the NFC Championship game, Eagles played him a lot against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl on Sunday, and running back is a position that is expendable. Running back is a position where you can find quality backs in free agency for a very small price tag as compared to what Miles Sanders is going to make potentially in the free agency market. And behind this Eagles offensive line, you can have a running back who's able to have a lot of success. Boston Scott going to be a free agent as well. Kenny Gainwell still on that rookie deal. I'm interested to see what he'd be able to do as RB number 1, and I'm interested to see what Howie Roseman does because they don't always prioritize investing in that running back spot. Other considerations on top of what we've discussed today. Keeping TJ Edwards and Marcus Epps, I think is going to be paramount. Once again, continuity on that defense, but also homegrown talent on this team that you've really developed into high-level starters. TJ Edwards was the second highest-graded linebacker in the NFL, according to Pro Football Focus. I thought he played a whale of a game against the Chiefs, and Marcus Epps was really overlooked and overshadowed with what he did this year. Brandon Graham is an all-time legend, and if it came down to if you have to keep him or Fletcher Cox, I'm keeping Brandon Graham because simply I think he's the more impactful player coming off that 11-sack campaign. I think it's important for the Eagles to look ahead at edge rusher, even if they do bring Brandon Graham back. Maybe you want to get a young edge rusher in here through the draft or sign another good edge rusher on this team. Hassan Reddick was terrific. Josh Sweat was as well. I think they could use another immediate playmaker at that spot. It's important for Nick Sirianni to knock it out of the park when it comes to the offensive coordinator hire and defensive coordinator hire. It's the first time in like 30 years, I think I was reading, that a team has lost both its OC and its DC. And that kind of turnover on both sides of the ball can be difficult to overcome. We saw it during the Andy Reid era when a lot of his coordinators had gotten poached for some other head coaching opportunities across the NFL. That's what happens when you win games. And I do think it's also something to monitor here with the wide receiver market in free agency. Quez Watkins simply didn't get it done. He even admitted in his postseason press conference at his locker room as he gathered with the media that he thinks that he took a step back this year. The fact that he jumped for that ball late in the game, which could have put the Eagles up 2 scores, is yet another missed opportunity in the Super Bowl defeat to Kansas City. And I just want to see more from him. And I'm tired of him being a training camp sensation who gets vertical, takes the top off of the defense. Sooner or later, I actually need to see the production on the field. In this free agency market, it is solid. There's some buzz that the Eagles could look to acquire a guy like Jarvis Landry out of the slot. Now, Quez Watkins is a good vertical threat. You can still get vertical with A.J. Brown, a la the Super Bowl, or Devontae Smith, because both of them just dynamic playmakers. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's a clown for what he said to James Bradberry, and because he's a clown, and TikTok Boy, which was a great body by A.J. Brown, I don't want to see him come to Philadelphia. He's just a loser. Jacoby Myers, Michael Thomas, I'm good on. DJ Chark does intrigue me. McCole Hardman as a weapon is a good player. Jarvis Landry is one of those guys who could operate out of the slot, and maybe you can get him for cheap. All right, our last question of the show. Appreciate all of you for rocking with us. If you're still tuned in, type real one because I know you're still watching and you're listening closely. Can the Eagles return to the Super Bowl next year? This offseason guide, I believe, will get them to that spot. Y for yes, N for no. As always, appreciate your support of Philadelphia Eagles now, and don't forget to subscribe.